Hello, this is Paul Solentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. Welcome to the Roundhouse podcast. Thanks very much for listening. Wichita State is celebrating the 1976, 2006, and 2016 MVC champions this weekend. All three of those teams also played in the NCAA tournament. We are sitting down with a few of the Shockers from those teams to collect some memories. Our first guest is Ed Southern. Ed, in 1976, was a 6'2" junior guard from Wichita, Kansas. He played at Southeast High School. Ed, tell us how you got to Wichita State to play basketball.
Well, I am from Wichita, have always admired and enjoyed watching the Shockers. I've watched guys play that were from here, Terry Benton, some of those guys, Warren Armstrong or Warren Jabali now. Always thought that it would be great to maybe play at Wichita State. Well, I wasn't recruited out of high school to a D1, but we were playing some pickup games at the old Kapaun Mount Carmel gym, and Harry Miller was the head coach. Was bringing some players in. I think he brought Neil Strom, and there was two or three other guys that he brought in and wanted to maybe watch those guys play, do a little scrimmage. And he watched us play a little while, and after we finished, he came over and asked me. He said, "Where are you gonna go to school?" I said, "Well, I've signed at Johnson County Community College." He said, "Well, would you consider coming to Wichita State?" I said, "Well, nobody ever talked to me about it. I'd be more than happy to." He said, "Well, I'd be glad to offer you a scholarship. I like the way you play defense here, and then didn't get out to see you much, during your high school years, but I think you could probably help us a little bit." And that's basically kind of where it started, and he offered me a scholarship, and I took it.
So that 1975-76 team went 18-10, 10-2 in the Missouri Valley Conference, played in the NCAA tournament where it lost a first-round game to Michigan. What made that team successful?
Well, we were a very competitive team. We just wanted to win. We thought we could win. We had a lot of confidence. We had a lot of players that were very confident. Robert Elmore, Calvin Bruton, Cheese Johnson, Doug Yoder. All these guys were top-notch guys that loved playing the game, and we had very competitive practices, and we really pushed each other. So I think that's what made us as good as we were.
What games stand out in your memory from that time?
Well, the game that I remember most was against Louisville. They came in, they were, again, one of the top teams in the Missouri Valley, and they had a big guard, Junior Bridgman, who was probably their top-notch player, and they came in. I can't remember exactly what the score was that game, but it was a packed house, and Louisville was always one of the top rivals for us.
And they had won the Missouri Valley Conference the previous year before leaving the conference. Junior Bridgman, of course, played many years in the NBA.
Absolutely.
So the final score of that game, 78-74. That was late in the season when Wichita State really went on a hot streak. The Shockers also beat Oklahoma, split playing 2 games with Memphis, and split 2 games with Louisville. The Missouri Valley, there was some really good talent in those days. Mike Glenn, Roger Fegley at Bradley, Maurice Cheeks, West Texas State all played in the NBA. What are your memories of playing in the Valley, the toughest opponent? Was there a big rival in those days?
Well, we considered all those teams, teams to beat. We considered ourselves one of the top-notch teams. Tulsa was a good team to play against. It was a good rivalry because they're close, and the fans love to watch us, play against Tulsa. All the teams were great. They all had standout players. We just wanted to play and go as far as we could.
I think fans will be familiar with Cheese Johnson's name. Certainly, Bob Elmer will be another prominent name from those teams. Describe playing with those two.
Well, those guys, of course, from New York. If you ever talk to those guys from New York, they came here to Kansas. They, thought this was a little bit of a country town, and but when they got here, we all kind of, melted together and enjoyed, playing with one another. But those two guys were outstanding. They were guys that got us over the hump most of the time. Of course, Cheese was All-American, and Robert Elmore was considered a top NBA draft player, during his time. But those guys were great.
Ed, thank you very much for your time.
You bet.
Our next guest is Steve Kalocinski. Steve was a freshman on that 1975-76 team, 6'6" forward from Burnham, Illinois. He was the first person to wear 00 at Wichita State. Steve, tell us how you got to Wichita State from the Chicago area.
So I played for Thornton Fractional North on the south side of Chicago, and one of the assistant coach who was the head football coach, and he was assistant basketball coach of our basketball team, was Ron Tomczak. Well, Ron Tomczak was a roommate of Ron Heller back in the 60s at Wichita State, and he called Ron Heller up and says, hey, you need to come look at this kid that we got here. And so Ron came out and looked at me, and the game that I was playing in was AA Stag team, and Ron Heller was at the game, and he was sitting behind my bench, and I blocked a shot up by the square on one of those fan baskets that they had in the Chicago area. We didn't have square backboards there, and I guess he squeezed the coach's shoulder, and the coach shook his head and he goes, "Yeah, you can get up." So, and then Ron I had a kind of a troubled upbringing, dysfunctional family. My dad was alcoholic and stuff, and really kind of an absent father. And Ron took me under his wing as kind of a father figure. When I came visited Wichita, I just, there was actually an article in the Eagle Beacon that they did back then that one of the things I said is I found the people very friendly, and that's what attracted me to come to Wichita. Being in the South Side, Chicago, industrial, blue collar, working class, it was kind of rough, and we didn't have very much. We didn't even own a car. So Ron became kind of like a father figure to me, and that's how it kind of started.
From what I know about Ron, and I knew him briefly, that's exactly what I would expect. Ron Heller,
Yes.
for those who don't remember, played at Wichita State, was a very good basketball player, then was an assistant coach, was a
Yes.
broadcaster, also coached at Friends University,
Yes.
and you were his last recruit, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Tell us about the 76 team. They went 18-10, 10-2 in the Missouri Valley Conference, played in the NCAA tournament. What made that team successful?
I think it was the kind of combination of players we had. You had Cheese Johnson, that was blue chip recruit, and Bob Trogel, that Harry Miller inserted in there, and caused a little dissension. I think if that dissension didn't happen and Mike Eggert would have stayed on the team and Neil Strom as backup, because Neil Strom was a phenomenal player in that you could never guess his moves. I mean, he was 6'8", he was kind of a big bodied. He wasn't real athletic, but he can twist, turn, fake, about as good as Cheese Johnson. Very hard to block a shot. You're just always second guessing him. And we had Robert Elmore, Mandingo strong center, could jump. We had Cal Bruton, great point guard. I played with him in Australia in 80 and 81. So we had some success there in Australia. So you had Doug Yoder from Newton on that team, and Robert Gray, great forwards. So you had backup forwards with Cheese Johnson. You had just a really good combination of guys, and I was talking to Dave Brisblow a couple weeks ago. He was on that team too, out of Schenectady, and he said he talked to Phil Hubbard on the Michigan team that we lost to that year in the opening round of the tournament, NCAA tournament. He says, we were lucky to beat you that game. You were the toughest team we played that year. So kudos to that team because we kind of were gritty, and we just had a combination of guys that could get it done.
Michigan won that game 74-73. Ricky Green hit a shot with about 4 or 5 seconds to play. Certainly a really nice effort from the Shockers, and they led for good portions of that game. You mentioned Robert Gray, who was the leading scorer on that team, and I think has kind of gets lost. I think people are real familiar with Bob Elmore, Cal Bruton, and Cheese Johnson. Describe Robert Gray. What kind of player was he?
Man, he had a turnaround bank shot that was money. He just was hard nosed. He could play good defense, and he just added to that team. He just added that aspect to the team, that element that gave us that success. And he was just an all around, just a genuine nice guy.
The NCAA tournament has turned into just a huge thing, billion-dollar TV property. I think everybody's familiar now that it's a big deal, what it's like going to it. In 1976, what was it like traveling to Denton, Texas, and being a part of it?
Well, the Shockers, they chartered a 747 Braniff, and they made a plaque for us when we came back from that game. I can imagine Wichita would have been crazy if we'd have won that game. I think we would have been playing Notre Dame next at the in Kansas City at the new arena there. What was
Kemper Arena?
Kemper Arena, yeah. So it was crazy. We flew down there. We had the Shocker the band on the plane, and it was packed. It was just electric, and that was a heartbreaking game. We were up by 12 points with like 3-something to go, and I think Coach Miller made an error and spread. He went into a spread offense to try to kill more time on the clock, and that just took our momentum away because we definitely were dominating that game. And the fact that Cal Bruton, I think, held Ricky Green to 4 points up to the point when he hit that bank shot from the deep corner where it skidded off the side of the backboard and went in. And that was the game-winning basket. We only had 4 seconds to go full length of the court. And Robert Gray tried on the other side of the half court and hit the backboard, but it didn't go in. So.
And that Michigan team ended up losing in the championship game to the unbeaten Indiana team that people are very familiar with.
Yeah.
Steve Kalocinski, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, we are moving on to the 2005-2006 Shockers. They went 26-9, 14-4 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Shockers defeated Seton Hall and Tennessee before losing to George Mason in the Sweet 16 in Washington, D.C. Our guest is Ryan Martin. Ryan from Kansas City, Kansas, was a 6'5" junior forward on the 2006 Shockers. Ryan, how did you get to Wichita State?
Went to Coffeyville Community College for 2 years, and then Coach Tad Boyle came and started recruiting me, and I came on my visit. They played, I think it was Western Kentucky in the NIT, and I just felt like it was home. So I decided to commit to Wichita State.
What made that 2006 team successful?
I think the thing that made us so successful was just our ability to just play like a team. We didn't have a true superstar on that team. Obviously, Paul was probably our best player, but we just played for each other and we just played as a team.
Yeah, great defense and great chemistry, I think, are the two things that popped to my mind. How was Mark Turgeon able to get such a good defensive effort out of that group?
Because he just preached it from day one. I mean, we had so many new faces. I mean, we really just didn't know. We didn't know any different. Karen was new. I was new. Kyle was somewhat new. So, we just had to come in and, figure out what our roles are and just play them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, that's a good point because Wichita State had been building up to that point with a really good group of seniors, Rob Campman, Jamar Howard, Randy Burns from the previous year. So I think Wichita State was picked 5th in the Missouri Valley starting the 05-06 season. When did that team really gain some confidence? Was there a light bulb game, a turning point that you look back on?
I think us losing to Illinois and Sal Padre kind of opened up all of our eyes as a team to say we might be able to do something special this year. And, we lost that game, and then we lost to Michigan State in non-conference, and then, I think we played pretty well. I think the turning point of that year was our game at Missouri State, though. On the road, we didn't play very well in the first half, and we had to come back in the second half. Nick Rogers played really well in the second half of that game, if I remember correctly. And it was just we just took off after that. I think we lost one or two more conference games after that.
That was a 68-62 win in Springfield, so you're remembering that well. You had the dunk, I believe, that kind of finished off the Tennessee game in Greensboro, North Carolina. What do you remember about that game?
Oh, my gosh. I just remember going into that game, everybody thought that we were going to lose. And
they were the second seed, Tennessee was.
And I remember everybody just asking us if we were scared, if we were ready for the moment. And, we just went to the game with nothing to lose. And just PJ played out of his mind that day. And, we just figured out how to run secondary break better than anybody else in the country. And, we just executed down the stretch, and that's how we won the game.
That was a great P.J. Couisnard game. I have that box score up here on my wall in case he ever comes by. 20 points, 5 assists, 9 rebounds. He had 4 turnovers. He blames those on his teammates, but excellent all-around game.
He literally said something to me today about one of those.
Yes, that was a fine game by P.J. Couisnard, definitely. Great season for the MVC. 4 teams in the NCAA. The Shockers and Bradley both went to the Sweet 16. Who was the toughest opponent in the Valley that year?
I would probably say Bradley. They had Patrick O'Brien.
Future lottery pick.
Yep. Marcellus Somerville was a nightmare at the 3 and the 4. Tony Bennett was a really good guard. Daniel
Ruffin, I think.
Daniel Ruffin was on that team too. They were just really tough. They were physical. You had to bring your hard hat when you played them every time you played them. So.
That was a very good team. They played a great game against the Shockers early, and may have been the opener of the Valley schedule. Let's see, I've got it right here. It was the second game of the Valley schedule, and Shockers won 69-67 in overtime.
Yeah, that was the game. PJ blocked a shot to win the game.
Indeed he did. A fine defensive play. We're talking more about P.J. Couisnard than I anticipated here. And then Bradley went on to beat Pittsburgh and Kansas in the NCAA tournament, I believe. Mm-hmm. What was it like going to the NCAA tournament in 2006? What was the atmosphere?
I think because it hadn't been done in so long, I think we were all just excited to be there and just figure out what we could do in the tournament once we got there.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. Wichita State had not been to the NCAA tournament since 1988, so they kind of missed this whole period where the NCAA tournament turned into this huge thing, and there was some frustration in the previous years of not quite getting to the NCAA tournament, and that 2006 team turned it around in a big way. Ryan Martin, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Our next guest from the 2006 team is Kyle Wilson. Kyle was a 6'8" junior forward from Plano, Texas. On that team, Kyle, how did you end up at Wichita State? Tell us that story.
Oh man, that's a good one. So I was at the University of Illinois and spent my freshman year there playing for Coach Self. Coach Self had made the announcement that he was going to be going to Kansas after my freshman year, and I was already looking for a change and started looking around at where I may transfer to. The interesting part of that is I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Wichita, and their backyard butted up against Coach Turgeon's.
Okay.
So there was some communication between them that, hey, Kyle may be looking to transfer. And I don't remember the timeline nowadays, but pretty quickly thereafter, I got a phone call from Coach Turgeon.
Well, how nice that Mark Turgeon bought a house next door to someone with a 6'8" nephew.
Right, exactly. So anyway, over the course of the couple months there, I had a lot of conversation with Coach Turgeon. Ended up making a visit here to Wichita. after the season finished at Illinois, and just was really excited about what he had started building here, and wanted to be a part of it. And that's really how that happened. So ended up making the decision to transfer. Had to sit out that first year, but it was beneficial. It was a good move now looking back on it.
What made that team successful?
I think it starts with Coach Turgeon. I think he had a vision of what he expected out of his team, and what we could accomplish, and I think that confidence that he had kind of rolled downhill, and we had a lot of really good players, and I think nobody was overtly confident or cocky. We all knew that it was going to take all of us to be successful, but at the core of it, there was a lot of talent on that team, and we figured out how to play well together as well.
Where were you when Matt Breyer hit the shot to beat Creighton on Valentine's Day in 2006?
Oh, man. You know what? So crazy. I couldn't even tell you. I think I was sitting on the sideline, to be honest with you. I don't think I was in the game when that shot was made. But, talk about a shot that goes down in history. That we kind of knew we were a team of destiny at that point.
Other memorable games, what stands out from that season in your mind? Making you go back 20 years, I know, but...
Yeah. I think a couple things. I think the last game of the season when we clinched the conference season title outright, I remember that, and all the fans, kind of coming down on the court and cutting the nets down. That was amazing.
Shockers beat Illinois State that day on senior day, 64-57, and
right.
cut down the nets. Yes.
Yep. I remember, and then obviously the NCAA tournament run. I remember all three of those games, pretty well. But that experience was incredible. And again, like for a team that, as a group, we hadn't experienced that. We hadn't been to the tournament, and for us to show up and have the confidence that we can play there and prove it out over the course of a couple of games and have the opportunity to make it to the Sweet 16 is pretty special and something I'll remember forever.
Kyle Wilson, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are moving to the 2015-2016 Shockers. They went 26-9, 16-2 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Wichita State defeated Vanderbilt and Arizona before losing to Miami. In Providence, our guest is J.R. Simon. J.R. was a 6-foot junior guard on that team from Oklahoma City. J.R., let's start by giving people the background. How did you get to Wichita State to play basketball?
Yeah, so mine was a little unique. I came as a walk-on, preferred walk-on, if you will. I had an opportunity to come. Grew up playing basketball with Shaquille Morris and got connected. He ended up committing here and got connected with some of the coaches, and my family's around here, so they've obviously been big fans of Wichita State. So some communication and, with Coach and some of the other staff. Got an opportunity to come be a part of the team and ended up working out really well. And
I think you and Zach Bush, who was also a walk-on that team, would be regarded as two of the best walk-ons in a range of, from being practicing well, responsible, weight room, grades, all that kind of stuff, and also playing some. You played some significant minutes for those teams over the years. How did you regard your job as a walk-on?
Well, I appreciate that. We took a lot of pride in that, and I think one thing with Coach Marshall and the whole staff and the team, we understood when we got here we weren't just viewed as GPA boosters. We were viewed as integral parts of the team, and if we're going to be out there, if we're going to be a part of practice and doing things, we're going to be expected the same as Ron, Fred, Tikel, any of those guys. And so I think with that, obviously it's extremely challenging because we're not as talented as those guys, but it also is rewarding to know, like, one, it's going to push us, and two, that we have the same expectation as those guys that, we're going to get in trouble the same. We're going to, if we make a turnover, if we do things. But they want us involved in practice. They want us communicating, creating that role that, we may not necessarily be playing a bunch of minutes, but we can create a role to help lead the team in a different way.
And to be clear, I'm sure your grades were excellent. I've heard a couple stories about Zach Bush, and he's not here to defend himself, so we won't really dwell on that.
Yeah.
What made that Shocker team so successful?
Obviously all 4 years of me being here, we had a variety of success. Specifically, the 15-16 team, we were led by an unbelievable senior class, as you know, with 5 seniors, Tom Bush, Juan Makota, Antoine Grady, Evan, Ron, Fred. And when you have those guys as your senior class who have had a ton of experience, a ton of success, that gives you and the team a lot of opportunity and chances to do well. And unfortunately, we battled some injuries early in the year, which made it challenging at times, and we didn't start out the way we wanted. But thankfully, people got healthy and ended up rolling at the right time.
So much defense on that team. They finished first in Ken Pomeroy defensive statistics. Why was that team such great on the defensive end?
Well, I think it started with our guards. All 4 years, Fred, Ron, Evan, but all of our guards defended so well. It was such an important thing in our system, and it was from when they got here to even when they were All-Americans and junior, senior year, when they had all the notoriety and playing well on offense, they still took pride in playing hard-nosed defense. And so I think that trickled down to everyone else too. When they show that example, it allows everyone else to understand, like, oh, this is important. Like, if these guys are doing it, we all better lock in, and it's an important part of our system and why we've been so successful.
What games stand out in your memory?
It's hard to pick out. You spoke on it in the NCAA tournament that year. It was incredible. We made the first 4 that year. We ended up beating, was it Providence, that first game?
Beat Vanderbilt.
I'm sorry. We went to Providence. Beat Vanderbilt, which was a great game, and then we go in and just beat the crap out of Arizona. And I think that, we had a lot of games that solidified, like, we may be in the Missouri Valley, but, like, we've got dudes that can compete with anyone in the country. And when you have a game like that, with Arizona had some big names, too, at the time, and we went and truly dominated them from start to finish. And that, I think, stuck out a lot, just knowing, like, man, our guys. And the Miami game went back and forth, and unfortunately it didn't pan out how we wanted, but we were right in it at the end to, hopefully make some noise to go again to the second weekend. But
Shockers defeated Arizona 65-55 in that game, and I was looking at the box score earlier today. Caused 19 turnovers and allowed 20 baskets, so that's an indication of the kind of defense that
it was havoc. Yep.
Definitely. Illinois State was a big rival in those days, and the Redbirds beat Wichita State early in the February of that season, 58-53. Rematch on Senior Day. The Shockers won 74-58. What made that rivalry so heated?
I think it's a lot of history. Just obviously having both fiery coaches, very intense. They've had some really good players in the past. They had some really good guards, especially during that time. Paris Lee, some other guys that were very talented and gave our guys, a run for their money all the time. And so I think that brought out a lot of competitive juices. They would have our number at times in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament and or just regular season games. And I think just the back and forth, we always had good battles for sure.
J.R. Simon, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Good to see you.
Our final guest is Evan Wessel. Evan was a 6'4" forward, a senior from Wichita Heights on that 2015-2016 team. Evan, tell us how you got to Wichita State.
Thanks, Paul. I was born and raised in Wichita. Went to Wichita Heights, and Coach Marshall and Coach Jans recruited me during high school and offered me a scholarship. And then just getting the chance to stay home and play for a great team that they were developing, it was a no-brainer for me to stay here and come to Wichita State.
And your grandfather, Ev, played basketball for the Shockers, and your father, Todd, played football. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yep, that's correct. Grandfather back in the 50s, my dad in the 80s when we had a football team there. And so kind of that family ties to Wichita State to begin with. So grew up being a Shocker fan, and then be able to come here and play was, kind of a dream come true.
So 2015-16 Shockers, what made that team so successful?
This is a great group of guys. It kind of started out where we're battling through adversity as far as, we had 3 or 4 major players get injured at the first part of the season. I think we went to their tournament down in Florida and lost three in a row, which was uncommon for us. And then being able to regroup and, win the Missouri Valley tournament. And so just kind of the things that went along with that. And a lot of guys on the team, too, were there for 4 and 5 years. That had been there, and so just the ties growing up together and then being able to kind of fight through, make the tournament, and then didn't end how we wanted to, but we won a couple games in the tournament, and then just to kind of see us all finish our careers too was a special year.
That was an excellent defensive team, finished first in Ken Pomeroy's defensive efficiency rankings. Why was that team so good at defense?
This thing is what we prided ourselves on, defense and rebounding first, and then we knew the offense would come, and we obviously had great players on there, but that's what we pride ourselves on being is trying to limit teams to scoring, and obviously Coach Marshall instilled that in us, and if you didn't play defense or rebound, or if you turned the ball over, you weren't going to play, so we knew how to get on the court, and we knew that's how you're successful.
So you mentioned the injuries, and it was a challenging start to the season. Fred VanVleet missed several games with a hamstring injury. Landry Shamet, I think a lot of people forget, played in the first 2 or 3 games and then had a stress fracture. Anton Grady had the spinal concussion, which was kind of a new injury, I think, to everybody while you were down in Florida. Fred comes back in early December versus St. Louis. Anton Grady was playing. When did it feel like the Shockers were kind of whole again and ready to really get playing well in that season?
Yeah, I think once we got into conference, so probably first part of January, we had our full team back. Obviously Landry going out early, he could have been a key piece for us the rest of the season, but really part of that stride into the Missouri Valley Conference at that time, mid part of January, we felt like, okay, we got our team back as a whole and could really, then learn how to play together with all the people that should be on the court and being healthy.
So I've had people go back 50 years and 20 years in their memory. You only have to go back 10 years, so I'm expecting big things. What games stand out?
From that season specifically, obviously, the conference plays were great, but just because we made the tournament every year that we were there, and for me and Ron, it was our 5th year. And so the way the tournament played out, we were in the play-in game, which we'd never been before, playing Vandy. Then our travel schedule as far as getting to Providence and getting in at 5 a.m., then having to wake up and to go to practice and play the next day against Arizona, which is a top school. So that game, and then really ran into a great Miami team, tons of athletes, and then just came up a little short. But just kind of those 3 tournament games kind of stand out for me as far as just kind of, I think it summed up our season. We fought through, made the tournament play-in game and finished strong, and then just came up a little short.
And 2 great defensive efforts held Vanderbilt to 50 points, beat Arizona 65-55. I was looking at the box score. Arizona scored 20 baskets and committed 19 turnovers, so that was a good example of the kind of defense the Shockers played. What did you enjoy about the NCAA tournament experience off the court? The hoopla, the travel, what was that like as a young person?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a really cool experience, and you don't really know what's going on while you're in it because you're focused on getting to the next game and the round and preparing. But looking back, just having all the fans, and then most importantly, your family there, and getting to see them enjoy it, and then spending time with them in between games and traveling different places, and then obviously just the expectations is raised when you get to the NCAA tournament and the attention. Which when you're competing is where you want to be. So just the game and the level of play is raised when you get in the NCAA tournament.
Evan Wessel, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Hi, this is Rick Muma, president of Wichita State University. Check out the latest episode of the Forward Together podcast. Each episode, I sit down with different guests from Shocker Nation to celebrate the vision and mission of Wichita State University. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Bradshaw into Wingate. Wingate's going to dribble it a couple of times and throws it in the hands of Kuznard. Drew it away. Kuznard to Ryan Martin for the dunk. The Shockers are going to the Sweet 16. It's all over. The Shockers up 7. 3 seconds. 2. Jumper by Smith is no good. Wichita State to the Sweet 16.